What's up, boys? It's Jacob. I wanted to do a quick one for you today, so uh, this one's just gonna be a whiteboard video. You saw the title, so this is gonna be 10 habits that every single young man should probably develop. These habits aren't a necessity in a compound way, so it isn't like you need to enforce all of these in order to have a more successful life. I can't tell you the formula to a more successful life because God knows that I'm just doing this so I can get more videos up on the channel. But I also think there's some really practical advice that I can share in this area. And if you want to take just one or two of these and think that working on them and mastering them is going to serve you better in the long run, that's fine by me. And I'm not going to know at the end of the day, so you're good. Alright, the first one of these will be waking up early. So, when you're in bed, you want to get out of bed, probably as soon as possible. And I know that can be sort of difficult thing to do. It kind of repeats in a cycle. You have your alarm clock on your phone or whatever, and that shit keeps ringing, and you think, oh, well, I'm just going to put it on for a few more minutes. And then the night after, you think, oh, I'm going to set 2 alarms, because one doesn't usually wake me up. And the next day, because you turn off your alarm again, it's like 3 alarms, 4 alarms. And soon your brain just gets adjusted not to do it. I'm going to give you a tip that one of my less knowledgeable friends gave me that I've been thinking about for a while. If you set your alarm to 20 minutes before you're scheduled to wake up, the 20 minutes of rest that you're going to have once you turn off that first alarm is going to make up for the amount of time that you didn't get enough sleep. And this wouldn't work in theory because people were sleep in 90-minute blocks. So for example, someone could sleep for 3 hours, which is 90, 90, 180 minutes. Then divide that by 60, that's 3 hours. So 1.5 hour would be technically half of what 3 hours of sleep would give you. But 2 hours would not nearly give you anything close to either of these. But the reason this works is because your brain isn't technically in rapid eye movement or REM sleep. It's just sort of catching up on the memories that you have. So if you're going to set multiple alarms, set at least 2 alarms. Waking up early doesn't have to be a consistent thing. You don't have to be one of those people that are like, oh, I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and I'm in the gym by 7. The least you can do, though, is try to keep a consistent sleep schedule so you don't wake up at noon. Because when you wake up at noon, at least for me, you're just going to feel like shit in general. Number 2, reading regularly. Now, if you don't like to read, which is option 1, there's another solution. Option 2, get audiobooks. Download audiobooks. Multiple of them. I believe that, while I'm not sponsored by Audible, obviously, this channel's pretty small, Audible has a free trial that you can use when you do use a sponsorship. So you can just literally find any Audible sponsorship on the internet and get a free book, and then download a bunch of the other free books that they have to trial members. And then you can just listen to that. And congratulations, you read a book without actually having to read it. I mean, it's like, what the hell? It's like magic and shit. Number 3, in my opinion, practicing gratitude. So, this is essentially just writing down shit that you're glad happened, or shit that you're glad to have in your life. Because as you get through the challenges of the day, you tend to focus on the areas of life that you don't have control over. And pretty much, the most important thing that you can remember philosophically is that there's a circle of shit that you have control over, and there's a circle of shit that you don't have control over. Right? This is what you do, and this is what you don't. And 90% of the time, your problems are going to be over here. Your girlfriend broke up with you. That's over here. You don't have control over that. Someone doesn't like you. That's over here. You got fired. That's over here. You're not going to get into a college you want. That's over here. You're not going to get a job you want. That's over here. This is all stemming either from the results of your past actions, or it's something that doesn't have anything to do with you at all. Or you're not aware that it does. This is just random shit that gets you upset. But this is your current workload. your current, fitness routine, your exercise, your relationships with people that are still in your life. Like, you can affect all of these. And gradually, what will happen is when you do focus on these problems will start to disappear and just go away. It's weird how that works, but all you need to do is refocus your attention from here to here so that this isn't 10%, this is more like, 50% or 60% or something like just acceptable. It doesn't have to even be the majority. You just have to focus more on this. And once you do that, for gratitude journaling and shit like this, you'll actually get better self-control. So it's weird how writing down how certain things make you feel better actually serves to your advantage. But that's like one of the many cringy ways that life works. Number 4 is regular exercise. Obviously, if you've got half a brain, you already notice. But the thing is, your mind cannot function without the body outside of it. So this is your body, this is your mind. Your mind is, let's say, a circle, and then your body is a square. So without the energy that your outer body gets, and without the processes of burning calories and just sorting out, where the energy goes and how it is expounded for moving, it cannot begin to think. When you don't blow your nose, it becomes hard to breathe. When you don't breathe, it becomes hard to think because your brain doesn't get enough oxygen. That's why breathing is important. That's why when you're sick, it makes you feel so uncomfortable and dizzy and irritated. Right? So the food that you put into your body determines how you feel, because your brain is going to get a certain type of nutrition thanks to it. And the same way, the health of your general body, or the shit that doesn't think, is going to determine how strong you are going to be on the inside. And exercising also helps build mental resilience. So if you focus that inwards, really, physical exercise is just a way of building up your internal toughness. That's the only way we can interpret it. Alright, number 5, eating healthy. This just goes into what I already said. If there are certain things that you eat that wouldn't normally be in a caveman diet, like let's say you have a bit of fucking pizza, or you have a bit of chips, or you have a hamburger here and there, or you have salmon. I mean, what is the best for you objectively. Like, it's the salmon. Spoiler alert, it's the salmon. A hamburger, pizza, not gonna do as much good for you. But the reason why is that our bodies tend to absorb the most nutrients from stuff like meat, so like steak or whatever, beans, let's say stuff like carbs, so mashed potatoes. Carbs are weird because they give you this brain foggy feeling. Pasta does also count as a large source of carbohydrates. I suggest you look into nutrition more than these basic ass drawings. But the reason why this is important is you don't want to be relying on one food source as a way to meet all your nutrition needs. Like, if you're going to eat red meat for most of your diet, that's probably not going to work out too well for you unless you mix it with something like beans or potatoes or pasta. You want to vary it a little bit. And of course, there's vegetables and fruit. This is a tomato because a tomato is a fruit. Don't argue with me. For meeting all those needs, you're gradually going to be able to just sort of work out what works best for you. You're going to have a specific diet plan for when you plan to engage in more mental-oriented tasks or when you're trying to be physically training. So there are going to be multiple prototypes that you can use for this. Number 6 is setting goals. If you don't have a consistent list of goals, nothing's going to get done, because nothing ever came to the world that was good without planning. You have to etch in your mind some sort of idea of what you want to accomplish. When you have that greater idea, preferably there should be a greater idea at the top and some lesser ideas at the bottom. Journaling can really help you with this. You can optimize your minimal ideas, the small things that you do every day, to strive towards that greater goal. Without having that greater goal and at least some distinction of what helps support it, some way to achieve it that will probably get reworked in the future, but is important nonetheless. You're never gonna get there. You have to have it. So make sure to always separate this into 2 or more categories when you do it. Long-term goals and short-term goals. Set them both. Ideally, you should have multiple at a time. Keep them in a journal somewhere. They even can be just etched at the back of your mind. You need to get them in. Get them roughly in. Nothing ever gets done without planning. Right, number 7, budgeting and financial planning. Okay, I admit this is something that I struggle a fair bit with, but it is nevertheless something that's important, so I'll relay my knowledge of this onto you. When you save money, you cannot save money at a faster rate than the government prints money. Think about that for a few seconds. You can't save money at a faster rate than it is being printed. So saving money for eternity, hoping that it's going to pay off someday, is not necessarily the best move. You have to find a way to make the money work for you. And in order to do that, you need to budget. Remember, at the end of the day, neither pain or pleasure counts in a philosophical, way of thinking. It's always just, what result am I going to get? If you put your money into money accumulating, inputs, if you self-invest in yourself, it's something as simple as buying nicer clothes, right? Or just buying the subscription to an app that you feel is gonna help your life, or buying better equipment for your job, so a camera if you're a photographer or a YouTuber or whatever. That's ultimately, I guess this looks more like a printer, could be a printer. It doesn't mean just pummeling money into e-commerce. That's not necessarily going to work out for you 100% of the time. You need to have a diverse set of interests that you put your money into. And every single time your money goes out for something as simple as a coffee, or something that you're buying for someone, some random shit you don't need, like clothes that aren't going to fit you in a bit, overpriced shoes, overpriced movie theater tickets. When all of that money contributes negatively to your bank account influence, you might want to see what you're spending the most on and cut some of that shit out so that you have more money to spend towards the nicer things. And then not only do you look better, but you end up with more money in the bank at the end of the day. So hopefully that's a very easy way. That's a very oversimplified way to explain money rationing, but hopefully you have a broader idea of what it is than I do. If not, a basic financial literacy book could help you. Number 6, consistent sleep schedule. I already sort of noted on this with waking up early, but this is different. This is your actual sleep schedule, so this is not only when you rise out of bed, but this is when you get in. If you get in to bed at a specific time, that's all it comes down to, is when you do that, you wake up at a specific time. That's all it is. So let's say that you go to bed to 11 p.m. every day, because let's face it, by normal societal standards, I guess you should be going to bed earlier than that, but nobody is. People stay up till 1 a.m., 2 a.m. every day. If you're a fucking college student, you're going to stay up till 4 or 5 a.m. It's always going to get a bit late. 11 p.m. is pretty early. And then you should rise out of bed at acceptable morning hours. So I'd say it's acceptable to eat breakfast in most of the world from like 6 to maybe like 10:30. If you eat breakfast after 10:30, you're like fucking, I don't know, something's quite off about you. If you eat breakfast at 11, you're kind of late. So 6 to 10:30, acceptable hours. You probably have work or school beginning around this time, so you got to get up even earlier than that. Especially if you're in a 9-to-5 job, which, as the name suggests, usually begins at 9, or even like a 7-to-3 school week, which is the case for me. You want to fit in between these two macros. Number 9 is time management. It's not only planning out your goals, but also planning out how you plan to spend your time. You should get something which I've recently began using, which is like a Google Calendar. And then you should write in all of the hours when you are at school, or in your college classes, or in your work, or whatever. and then they just sort of compile onto there, and you can plan what to do the rest of your day. And when somebody schedules something with you can always slap that in there. Then that way you never forget. If you put it in your notes, you're probably going to forget because it doesn't like alert you, notify you, remind you every single time you look at it. If you make it a habit to look at your Google Calendar, you're going to have a much easier way. And also another thing, there's an app called Lifecycle that you can download for free on the App Store that basically breaks down your day into a pie chart. So you can see what specific thing you did around what time, and it divides it by location. It's a very useful app. I use it pretty much every single day. And it can tell you what you spend a majority of your time doing if you really need data, especially if you have the subscription. So by using these two tools, which you can get on your smartphone now, or even just regular scheduling, like by using a journal, you're going to have a much better time managing how many minutes or hours you have left for something. And that can be very useful, especially with a sleep schedule and waking up early stuff. And the last one is significantly more just sort of long-term than the other ones. And this would be the practice of continually striving for some greater pattern of self-improvement rather than just layering it out for days upon days. If you don't have the will or the general encouragement of becoming a better version of yourself, and none of these habits are going to be important to you enough for you to stick to them. So ideally, as a young man, or even as a person, as you try and strive to develop yourself, you're going to face obstacles that are going to be hard to overcome if you don't have a grander mission statement. So for this, I want you to think of what your possible mission statement could be and what you're generally trying to achieve. Thank you for watching. As I said, this was like a quick video. It was meant as a general overview of the topic. It doesn't go too much into detail, but I would like to make more broader and just specific videos, both more generic and less generic, more diving down into the details on each of these topics. Let me know which ones in particular you would like and whether you would like me to address it in different perspectives and go over the different parts of it, or if you would like the answer to a specific question. I read all comments, so feel free to leave in the description. At this point, I really am trying to produce a lot of videos. If you go to the channels tab on my own channel, after you subscribe, of course, which you already should have done, you'll find my content network. That's other channels that I work for, and upload to. So if you're into more like journal videos or OSTs, remixes, music, I have all of that in there. And eventually, once I start live streaming, I'm going to upload a lot of clips on there. And there's a ton of shorts and different other stuff you could watch. So if you want to keep your content brain entertained, please feel free to check that out. I'll be very glad. Up until then, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.